I am here with J.M. Connors Art Studio. Thank you for having me today and
Thank
your
you for coming.
lovely home.
You're welcome.
What inspired you to pursue art?
It's interesting. Every year, I try to learn something new, do something new. Actually, honestly, I'm a landscape designer, and I've been doing that since I was 19. I worked my way through college doing that. I made a really nice career of it, and do still do some design work. But from there, every year, new endeavors. Uh, Albeit languages, learning the guitar. And one year I said, I really want to try painting. And so I did. And I've done a little bit of a little bit of watercolor, but really my medium is oil, and I just love it, and that's it. So, in fact, I have one of my earlier paintings hanging still, and it's nice to see the progress of which I still have some here, ones that I haven't sold. And yeah, that was it. Just my journey and of new things, new endeavors, and trying to be the best me I can.
How would you say you develop your style?
Well, I think some artists, certainly, I can't speak for everyone, but I don't feel the pressure of trying to be great or produce a great work. As a landscaper and outdoor enthusiast, I love being out. So when I come back in, I it's the painting that's so inspirational. I can't wait to go right into my gallery and start painting. It's just easy for me. I don't feel any pressure. It comes kind of natural. With that said, it has taken me years to be at the level that I feel good about my artwork. But to anybody that's just starting out, I would say just that. Don't feel the pressure. Enjoy the journey, and it's wonderful, and you'll surprise yourself. It's quite a thrill to create. Start from a blank canvas, and you can put 3, 4 artists in front of the same scene, and they're all different. So for me, I just love the pursuit.
Absolutely. And were there any key people that influence your path as an artist?
No, I am self-taught. But with that said, I do read a lot, watch YouTube videos. I have friends that are artists. My friend Elaine is wonderful. Her medium is pastel. So we've gone and done some plein air painting. So, there are influences directly or indirectly, but I am self-taught.
Lovely. And how would you describe the difference between your medium and, say, acrylic or pastels?
Right, there's a big difference in all of them and how you approach your artwork. So oil, for example, I start out with very thin, sort of a wash, usually transparent colors because I find that it glows through. And then from there, I will sketch out my drawing, and then it goes in layers from dark to light. Now in acrylic, that's not the case. You go from light to dark. Acrylic dries faster, dries darker. That's about as much as I know about acrylic, but yes, oil is quite different from all the other mediums, and that's a good thing.
And what is your creative process like when you start a new painting? What's the process for you?
Well, I always have 2 or 3 going at once. It was exciting because, again, they do need to dry in between.
Yeah,
Sometimes I do wet on wet, but typically they have to dry and layer. That's really when you have a nice piece of work, when you layer it with different colors next to each other, helps it pop. But, for me, I can't wait. I wake up early, 3 or 4 in the morning, and I can't wait to go into the art studio. I put on my music, and hopefully a shirt that's not going to get paint all over it. That's not always the case, but yes, I do it every day, probably about 6 hours a day. I stand right in front of my easel and just I really enjoy, like I said, I enjoy the journey.
fantastic. And what do you draw inspiration from for your artwork?
Definitely nature.
Nature.
Again, not to be redundant, but as a landscaper, and I've always been outdoors as a kid. It's what I did. I was an athlete, playing with my brothers outside, and still where I live. I'm on a nice 1.3 acres here. Watch the deer come up, and I'm a mile from the ocean, the Gulf of Maine. I do a lot of plein air painting, so it's all around me. There aren't enough days to paint everything I'd love to paint, truthfully.
Yeah. Are there any recurrent themes or messages in your art?
Themes, yes. I like landscapes a lot. On my clients, I have a few that are collectors that seem to really like the seascapes. Of course, that's wonderful to do, but I enjoy the landscapes. Again, probably going back to the whole landscape design thing. Those are my favorite for sure. But I'll do florals. I do still life, so I do like the variety. I don't do any one thing. I like that. I like to do commission work. I don't feel the pressure in doing that. Quite frankly, it's a thrill when somebody asks you to create something specific just for them. I mean, that's the greatest honor for sure, is someone who wants to share in your journey. I just love that. That's the payoff, truthfully, when they get excited. And, I can tell you, as I have my work in the gallery, when people buy it, I'm not usually there. Someone did convey a story about this woman that bought a painting, a dandelion, and she had told me, the woman working at the gallery, that this woman bought it because she had 2 children. One son had passed away, and her 2 boys were talking together, and the one son asked the other, "What's your favorite flower?" And he said, "Dandelion." And his brother said, "That's not a flower." Well, sadly, that son passed away, and that's what drew the mother to that painting of a dandelion. Now, I'll never forget that story. So
Wow.
that makes that extra special painting for me. That's what it's all about as an artist. When you can touch other people with what you do, that's a thrill. It doesn't get any better. I don't have any children. This is my legacy, so I love it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's happy, joyful.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it transmits through the art.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
How has your art evolved over time?
It definitely has evolved.
Yeah.
And I like that. Again, I'm very patient with myself. I don't, not every painting's a masterpiece. Not for me, and I don't imagine for anyone, no matter what experience you have. But with that said, when you really achieve and you feel like I've accomplished what I had set out to do and what I envisioned, it's such a thrill. And it has come along. I've been painting for about 15 years, and it's taken every bit of that to get here where I am. And it's funny that we're doing this here and now, because truthfully, I feel like I've really arrived. Now, that's not to say I don't want to get better. I do, and I will. But I'm quite pleased with where I'm at. So it's definitely evolved.
What challenges have you faced as an artist, and how have you overcome them?
Well, the hardest part for me is really balancing the business end of it with the creative aspect. And I'm a businesswoman. I owned a landscape design firm, so I can do that. I'm fine. Obviously this is my business, but it's a lot to really get your art out there, everything that it takes, the marketing, and quite frankly, here, because I've recently moved here to Maine, there's a lot of competition, I think, is a biggest challenge.
And what do you think about the local art scene here?
It's everywhere. It's pretty cool. I like it. I'm so amazed at everybody's work. I'm one of those artists that, we have openings. I have them. Currently belong to a gallery here now, down in Damariscotta, River Arts. Quite a few artists there in that small little gallery. And, when I go in there, I feel like a kid in a candy store. It's such a thrill to look at everyone's work. Again, you could set someone up in the same scene and everybody's paintings differently in their process and their journey, and I like it. I like that a lot.
What advice would you give an aspiring artist?
Just paint. Do what you love. Again, don't worry about the end result. Enjoy the journey. I mean, it's such a thrill. Don't, just learn what you can when you can, and do know it. Be patient. It takes time. You're not going to be great right away.
Would you like to talk about anything that you're working on right now, or what's next for you?
Yes, I would. So for me, a great painter is a portrait painter. And I've tried a few, and they're very challenging, I can tell you. I'm currently working on one right now, the woman with the pearl earrings. And I did do well. I had the background, I had her figure, and then when it came to the face, of course, that's with the portrait, I wasn't happy with it, so I just, just wiped it off, and that's okay. Again, the journey, whether you're starting some type of new painting that you haven't done or otherwise. So yes, it's portrait painting is what I'm working on now, and to me, then I'll feel like I've arrived.
How can people support your work or find more about your work and see it?
Well, I think you just really have to be diligent. Certainly, this is a great opportunity, but again, like any business, you have to work at it. You have to get yourself out there and invest the time.
And if you could be remembered for one piece of your work, what would that be and why?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. Well, that dandelion, and it wasn't a very big painting. I like to paint big. You'll see, most of my paintings are big, but I also believe, because I was a collector when I was young, I can tell you a quick story. When I was a kid, I come from a big family. I went to the 5 and dime store, and I wanted to buy my mom something special. I think I was about 8 or 9, and I saw this painting. Now, my mother wasn't that I knew of, into painting, but clearly I must have had an affinity towards it without even knowing. I bought a huge painting. I could hardly carry it home. I was a little peanut, but I did. It hung on a wall until she died 3 years ago. I still have the painting. Later in my adult life, I bought a painting very similar. It's hanging over there on that wall. So, it's always been so important to me, artwork, before I even realized it. So it'd be hard-pressed, again, that dandelion painting's pretty cool. And I just had a commissioned piece of woman. She sold things. She really didn't have the money for artwork, but she saw one that I had posted on my social media and she wanted it. But I had sold that years ago, so I said, I can do another, similar. She saved things, sold things. I mean, that I could cry thinking about it. It's very touching. She wanted it to hang where she works. She's still working, and she says she loves it. She doesn't mind working with that sitting behind her. I mean, those are the stories that make it special. I don't think what's special to me. I think it's what's special to them that makes it great for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it was a pleasure being in your home and studio. Thank you so much for having me, J.M. Connors Art Studio.
Thank you for coming. It was lovely. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All the best.